Regarding assignment 2, there's a question about how to do the symbology because it may be a bit confusing the way the software and the book talks about it. So I want to do a brief demo here, right? What I have set up, it's already following the instructions in the assignment. I set up the basic MXD file already in the place under the data library. In there I created the folder A2, and this is the MXD, the map document file I created, and it's called appropriately A2 with a dash, no spaces, and then my last name MXD. So let me open it, and I already put the only map layer in there, so let me open it. And that will bring up ArcMap, opening that, and it's using what's in our my data library, right? It brings up that layer already, and and in here, this map layer. Well, just briefly look at it. Go to its data attribute, right? The data attribute here shows that we have the total population. Each of those polygons is a census tract, and that's the total population, but that's the young population, and that's the elderly population. And we want to do the percentage of each so that we can compare, right? Now I have only one data frame here, so let's just do the the percentage of young people divided by the total population. So now this map right now has a simple symbology, just painted any arbitrary color for each one. So we go to its properties and look at the symbology tab. I'm already in the symbology tab, right? How do you want to show the symbology? Symbology, not just the simple feature, but we want to use quantity. We want to use the value, which is the young population, right? And based on that value, we want to color that polygon accordingly. But we don't want to just use the absolute value of that that number of the young population. We want to divide it by the total, so it's normalized by the pop total. Right, so this will be practically a percentage, but it's shown in real numbers, so it should go from 0 to 1 maximum. But of course, the young population doesn't go that far, go to 40%, right, 0.40. So that's what we want to show, but this is not quite right yet. But let's just look at it briefly. If we set it up like that, we'll say, okay, then it will adopt this, and we'll see it painted already, right? And of course, this classification is not quite what we want. We want to do the 0 to 5%, 5 to 10%, and so on. So, and also we want 7 classes. So let's go back there and make the change. And come back here. We want to have 7 classes, right? And this is a natural break method, but we go to classify to make that change. It's 7. Let's see 7 first. Say okay. So we actually see 7 classes there. Now we go back to that and still make the change. Right now we need to go to classify to be able to change this classification. Now this is the actual value that we use. Like this is the label that will eventually go up there. Right? We can change that, but make sure that this side is truthful to the values. Right? I'll show you what I mean by that. Right? Let's go to classify to change the classification. Right? The natural breaks method or Jenks method is look at them and see where they generally break, so that this is one group, this is one group, and so on. But we don't want that. We want to manually change it. So the method, you can choose other methods. The method we want to use is menu. Right? Menu, and then we want to set this up accordingly. Now make sure you do not click this percentage. This percentage will try to, based on the maximum value of this, to see. So if you click on this percentage, the last one is 100 based on this, but then these are the different percentages of this value. So this is not what we want. Make sure you don't use this, so don't confuse that. And right now, these are the percentages expressed in decimal number. So to change it, we can go to each one, right? It starts at 0 always like that. So we want to go to from the first breakpoint is 0.05, that's 5%, right? And then the second one is 0.10, right? That's 10%. And this one will be 0.15, that's 15%. So you can see we are using equal intervals, shifting these breakpoints there now. And this one would be 0.20, right? And this one would be 0.25. Right? This one would be 0.30, right? 30%. We don't need the, right? Actually, 40 is the maximum. If you raise it to any number bigger than that, it doesn't matter, right? If it's lower than that, some of them will not be classified, right? We know the maximum is 1, so we can do that. Right? The reason we also want to make sure that it's 1, if we apply this same classification to another set of data, you may lose some value. So make sure it goes all the way to the maximum here. So now it's set up properly, right? So if I say okay, it will adopt this, and it will adopt this to here. So you see that these values have changed and the labels corresponding to it. Now if I say okay, it will adopt this and put it on the map. So I say okay. Now this is what we would see. And now the last thing I want to show you how to change the labels accordingly. Right? We go back to that properties under the symbology in here. You can say right click and then choose format the labels. Right? Format the labels because these are percentages. You choose percentage. But the original number already represent not already representing percentage. They were decimal numbers, fractions. So we should say this so that it will reinterpret those numbers. We go to numeric options to control the decimal points behind the percentage. Let's say okay first. Right now, you see that it used the percentage 0.5% and so on, but then the decimal has that up to 6 digits. It's too much. We don't need that kind of level for general audience. So we go back to format labels and choose the numeric options. Generally, 2 spaces, two decimal places behind the percentage would be good enough. So we lower this to 2 and say okay. And say okay. So we see this is more acceptable, right? And also we want to change it so that it's easier to read. You can change it individually, right? This is from 0 to 5, so this is correct, but we want to change it to say less than 5%. So it will adopt this, right? So that it becomes easier to read, but this has to be truthful to that. In the same way, I can change this to say greater than 30%. That would be good too, right? Easier to read, but this is still truthful. I don't change this. So notice that once I try to change the classification, the labels will go away, because you should not. Once you change the classification, you should redo the labels. Labels you can change it in any way you like, but it has to be truthful to that. So now if I say okay, it would adopt this and put it on the map. Right? So that's what we want. Okay, so that's the classification we want there. And now, of course, you need to learn how to create yet another data frame. And then when you apply it, it would be less work to do that if you know how to use the layer file as explained in the tutorials. Okay, so I will leave it here. That's showing you how to do the classification. Then I can save it. Then the work is not wasted, and then it's already in here. I can still show you that, but that's done. Okay, all right. I hope that helps.